Entering Indian Point Nuclear Power Plant in Buchanan, New York, we're immediately struck by the huge domes that encase its reactors. We also can't help but notice security. You can't just stroll on in. Security here, extremely tight. We've just filled out a few forms, given our driver's license, gotten several IDs. They've gone through our vehicles, taken out all of our equipment, inspected it, and now we're ready to head on in to the nuclear reactors. That is, after 2 briefings and more security checks. Finally, we head to the containment dome of reactor number 3, which is currently offline for refueling. Right now it's open.
Right now it's open during a refueling outage.
It's a little surreal, like walking onto a movie set. But instead of passing wooden props, we pass through a very solid 11-foot thick concrete and steel wall.
This is actually
the thickness down here.
This is the wall.
Yellow tape warning of radioactive danger is all that separates us from the white uniformed technicians doing the refueling, replacing the spent fuel rods with new ones. Using a huge crane, they're vertically lifted from the nuclear core and turned horizontal so they can move along a water-filled canal to the adjacent building where the spent fuel rods are kept in a pool to cool down.
If for some reason there were a problem, say natural disaster, an attack, whatever, this temporary plug is ready to go. There's a giant forklift right behind it, and it's all set. Within 15 minutes, the plug can be shoved in there to protect the reactor.
Leaving this area, our equipment, shoes, and bodies get scanned for any radiation we may have picked up. We're good. Our dosimeter, keeping track, reads 0.
Okay, remove it.
Now we head to where those spent fuel rods are kept. Passing through hallways and upstairs,
Take 2 at a time.
we make our way into the adjacent building.
Okay, next 2.
Entering the spent fuel rod area, we see the pool with its greenish tint. It's about 40 feet deep and surrounded on all sides with 6 feet of concrete. Water is continuously pumped into the pool, keeping it at a relatively cool 100 degrees Fahrenheit, compared to the 2100 degrees that nuclear fuel reaches before it melts down. So keeping the power on here is essential to averting disaster. In a plexiglass enclosed case, brand new fuel rods wait their turn for a swim to the nuclear reactor core.
So how many do you have in here?
Right now there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 30.
Okay.
The rest are in the fuel pool.
These are fuel assemblies composed of fuel rods, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Right.
As precise as the underwater refueling operations are, they are not without flaw. In Indian Point's reactor number 2, there's a leak since 1993 that officials say releases as much as 8 gallons of contaminated water a day during refueling.
You haven't been able to determine the source of this leak?
We haven't found the exact location of the leak to be able to do the repair to stop it.
Efforts continue to pinpoint the leak, but Joe Pollack, VP of Operations, says it does not pose a safety hazard since it's within the reactor core.
We've just come out of the spent fuel pool, so now we have to be checked for any radiation, have to go into these.
That's reassuring.
Looks like I checked out okay.
But because Indian Point is located just about 25 miles outside New York City and near 2 fault lines, there are concerns.
What's happened in Japan? Do you think there's any possibility that it could ever happen here?
They're very slim. Very slim, the odds that it ever happen here, anywhere near the magnitude. We plan what we think is impossible to happen, and we still plan for it.
Alan Chernoff, CNN, Buchanan, New York.